I fell and then tried to stand up, and on my way from getting up off the ground, I got this athlete tried to jump over me and kneed me in the face. And
what?
So it's like, yeah,
like
they say track is
WWE
a
going on here.
non-contact sport.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Coaches on Couches.
Being slouches with another very non-slouch here today. Very
got-
non-slouchy.
Hi.
Lauren Paquette on the couch
Hey,
today.
everyone.
We just told her she was going to be live,
Yeah,
and we
sprung
didn't
it
tell
on
her
her.
about how awesome that intro is.
Yeah, you didn't tell her you're going to drum roll.
I didn't tell her the drum roll. No, Stitch already heard it though. Stitch is unfazed by the drum roll.
Stitch is on the
buddy.
couch. We've been requested to move Stitch more into the shot. Mm-hmm. So there she is in all her glory. I am Coach Dale Sanford.
Coach Bryant Funston.
We are co-founders of BPC Performance Coaching, where we specialize in helping time-crunch athletes integrate sport into their busy lives. We've worked with everybody from fresh off the couch to the World Championship competitor, and you can find out more about us at buildpeakcompete.com. You can check us out on Instagram at BPC Performance or Facebook and YouTube at Build Peak Compete.
Yeah, you nailed that. Considering you didn't
I
have
shortened it by about,
the prompt.
yeah, I had nothing
So I
to read
stole
off of.
Dale's prompt here, so he had to do that from memory. Good
Yeah.
work, man.
So we'll get to Lauren in just a second, but first, shout-outs.
Lead it, Dale.
All right. My first one, Greg Rohde. He's back on. He's been hitting hard over in the off season, and so he's kind of went through like a slump, having so much like training and nothing on the horizon.
Mm-hmm.
And so we finally had like a breakthrough a couple of days here. So he hit a new new best 20-minute power on GPAC.
Yep.
And
was a hard one.
then he hit probably his best set of 400s he's ever hit. And average. I mean, this is if you haven't listened to the episode of Greg on the couch, this is only his like second full season in triathlon. And when he first came to us, he was like running 9:30 pace basically. And this set of 400s, and granted they were all out, he did them all under like 5:30 pace.
Nice.
So he's just
Wow.
worked incredibly hard to get it down. So big
Was that
shout
the
out.
same day he set his new 20-minute power?
It was the next day.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got some shout outs here. So we had 3 of our ladies that I coach go to St. Louis and rock out at the tour of St. Louis. So time trial and 2 crits back to back. They raced great as a team. And so yeah, they're finally putting the training from the off season to use and racing really well together. So that's awesome to see. And my other one, fresh off this morning's workout, Hart setting some new 60-minute records. So
Nice.
that's great to see. He's got a race coming up this weekend. So
It must have
hopefully
been the PH he picked up this
could have
morning
been
off my porch.
off your porch.
Yeah. I got one more. Margie and Tom Ratliff, they finished their first marathon in LA this last weekend. So
Oh yeah. All right, Lauren, what do you got?
you got any shout outs?
I have 2. My first one is shout out to Mom for making the trip from Little Rock to come hang out.
Hooray
and
for moms.
Help me chalk paint some furniture this weekend.
There we go.
And the second one is World Cross Country Championships are this weekend. And shout out to my girl, Sarah Pagano, who is racing for Team USA and all the other lovely ladies on Team USA. I'm pretty sure the race is technically while we'll be asleep. Tomorrow night. I can't say that I'm going to get up at 1:30 and watch, but I will definitely watch replays. And yeah, me and my mom will be cheering for everybody.
That is awesome.
That's how all the European races go.
I know. If sometimes I will get up really early if it's like 5:30
Yeah.
or 6, but
Oh, yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, 1:30 is really early. That's like zombie mode.
Flanders is next weekend?
Flanders, yeah.
That's like one that people get up for and like eat breakfast at.
Belgium.
Yeah.
There's supposed to be so much cycling, good routes over there.
Absolutely. All right, so we've got I've got a good luck here. All the folks racing Ouachita Challenge this weekend.
Yep.
That's a big one for our area. Pretty tough day.
We got some athletes doing that one.
Yep. And I actually have a shout at, which I'm pretty.
So the shout at is something that's annoying you at the time.
So my Garmin 920, granted I've had it for several years, decided to bite the bullet like 3 days ago. The buttons just stopped working. Everything worked. Actually, it'll power off and on, but the buttons just stopped working.
Just enough to give you hope, huh?
Yeah, but the problem is that any day now they're going to release the newest watch, but not having this thing is like almost worse than losing my cell phone.
Yeah.
Like
I understand that.
I'm like a little twitchy here, sitting here on this couch with nothing on my wrist.
I mean, I'll tuck mine away. Let's hide ours, Lauren, so he doesn't get jealous over here.
All right. So, Lauren, thanks for giving your time.
Yes, thanks for having me.
First off, just give a brief, sports background for you. Like how, growing up, how you stuck with running, all that good stuff.
Yeah, I guess I didn't start running until later than most people, I guess. But I started when I was a junior in high school, so 17. I went to a really small private Christian high school in Little Rock, Arkansas, Little Rock Christian Academy. And we just didn't have the sport at my school until my junior year. This new professor came in that had run for University of Arkansas, which it's a storied college, university for distance running. I think the men have won like 30 national championships cross country, something like that. So he competed for them and he brought it to my school. But before that, I had played almost every sport. I was state runner-up in tennis, played junior Olympic volleyball. My dad was the junior high basketball coach. I was awful, but I did that too. And then I played softball. Oh, I don't know. I can't even tell you.
Defensive specialist.
Basically just on the team because my dad's the coach. And I did like swim for like a semester. I was a cheerleader, powder puff football, a bunch of different things. But we had mini Olympics when we were in, junior high, which is like little sprint races and like egg tosses and stuff like that. And I used to be able to like beat the boys out for some sprinting stuff. So in cross country in high school, at least when I was in high school in Arkansas, and I was Division 2A, which is tiny, you had to have 5 people on your team to score points at meets. And they only had 5 girls on the team. And one girl was sick. So they just asked me to come out for a race, and I think I got 3rd overall in that race, and I ended up walking because I had no idea. I was like, what is that?
You're like, I'm used to sprinting. Everything I've done before is sprinting, and so that's what I'm going with. Yeah,
it was really, really hard, and for some reason, I mean, I just showed an aptitude for it, but I just had so much fun that weekend just traveling with the team and the girls and everything that I just decided to keep going, and yeah, here we are.
Here you and you found yourself on the couch.
Yes.
So like as a pro athlete, and you do some coaching, and you're doing your sports psychology stuff. So what how do you what are your main methods of balancing all this stuff? Because it's not. I mean, you aren't just training, sleeping, and eating. So what are your big things, ways to keep everything in balance? Are you a list maker?
I do. Yes, I am a list maker. I do have a pretty detailed journal. But yeah, I guess I just get everything those are just priorities to me. So I'm not really, I just, I have a routine. I like to on Sundays sit down and figure out where I need to spend my time, appropriately to get everything done that are priorities, and then I mix and play with that too. I don't just work for 4 days and then like crash and then, but yeah, I just, I guess I just have a routine that I've done for years. And, whenever I start something different or something new, or when I launched our coaching business a couple of years ago, I kind of had like a cap on how many clients I wanted to begin with. And then once I got comfortable with them and kind of just was able to increase my my clientele, because I don't ever want to be too spread thin.
Sure.
So I just kind of have just different routines and
I mean, I think that's
just built-ins.
the big thing that we've talked about a lot before is if you're trying to get a lot of stuff done, prioritizing what is important to you and having a routine so you know what you're supposed to be doing with your time. We get, some people that come to us and say, well, I just don't have time to do X. And it's like, well, you do have the time if that's a priority to you. So, routine tends to be huge, especially if you're trying to, train and compete at a very high level.
Yeah, and that is something too. I mean, I still kind of have a cap on how many people I want to coach, because I want to do the best by everybody, and I want to do the best by myself as well. I'm probably only going to run and race competitively for another few years. I really want to, that's, coaching and racing, coaching athletes and running myself are both my biggest priorities right now. But in the future, I hope to be able to add on more and more clients as the focus tends to shift away from myself. And that's why, I don't really want to have too many people I'm coaching right now, because I don't want their performance to suffer because I'm not dialed in or I'm too distracted.
Yep. No, for sure.
Yeah, that's super easy to do when you're like even now we have to like cap it, because it's we've been doing this now 10 years, but it's like you still realize there's a point where you just can't pay attention to that many people, and you don't want to offer a crappy service,
right?
and then find yourself you take all these clients on, and then everybody's getting crappy coaching, and then eventually it just goes do, and
and I hate to say no. Honestly, I'm a people pleaser. I hate to, but it's definitely better to, if I have to turn down somebody that asks for coaching services, I don't just, no. It's like, well, but these are some other options. And I know, I've referred some younger athletes to you guys too, because you guys with Chris do a great job with coaching some of the youth athletes you have. But that, for instance, is something like I'm only available for online coaching right now. I don't really have the resources to right now with my own training to meet younger athletes and stuff. So I hate to say no, but it just depends on what the person's looking for. So.
Yeah,
no, for sure.
You got to draw the line somewhere until the availability opens up and makes sense. And
I think a big thing there is anytime you're saying yes to something, it means you're going to say no to something else, whether intentionally or unintentionally. Saying yes to meeting with someone at 4 p.m. when that's supposed to be your training time, for example, is now you're saying no to your own training, or possibly to the quality of training you would have had otherwise. So I think people that are listening to this, you kind of think about what are those areas in your life that you're saying yes to things that you maybe shouldn't be doing. Because now that means you're saying no to the stuff that you probably truly want to do, or you could make a bigger impact at.
And you guys may have, that's also a good segue, but you may also have, we're going to bring this up later, but that also ties in with the concept of rest and recovery too with training. Is for me, sleep is so important to me. I sleep 9 to 10 hours a night, and I take naps every single day. I know it's only 11:50, but I've already trained once today and taken a nap.
Nice.
Because I'm running at 1:30.
She might be.
So we know you're not going to nap right
No,
now.
I've had my coffee.
If this gets boring, we ask boring questions. Who knows? All right, well, let's dive into some of your results. Maybe we should have let off with results here. I think one of the most impressive here, 2018 world ranking of number 15 in the 5,000.
Yay.
This is world, people.
World. All the continent. That includes Antarctica.
That's all the people all the
She's
5Ks.
killing. She's smashing the penguins.
Yeah.
They can't keep up. So everyone, number 15. That is remarkable. Times, PR right at 15:14 for the 5,000, and numerous races. 8 or 9, I think, between 15:28 and 15:14, which I don't know if I could do 100 at that pace. Maybe. I don't know. What do you think, Dale?
Yes, you could.
I don't know, let's find out.
Let's go find out. But yeah, no, that's huge. And one of the big things, you've stayed injury-free pretty much since you've gotten into this and made the shift. So you were we were chatting about this before, you started out more 800 and 1,600, right, or mile, and now you've transitioned to the 5,000 where you're about to go to Boulder to get some altitude training before some big races coming up.
Yes.
Excellent.
So you went to college at Baylor.
Mm-hmm.
And you ran the 800 at Baylor, specifically?
Yeah, I mean, I think my strengths have always been more on the aerobic side, but just because I started running when I was 17 and I was running 20, 30 miles a week, and then you go to college and you up your mileage so much. My coach, I guess Coach Harbor, I love him to death. We still talk today. But he wanted me to move up to the 1,500 after my freshman year, but I just loved the 800 so much that he didn't make me. But then my senior year, I just transitioned to the 1,500, which is just short of a mile. And so that went really well. I didn't want to admit that he was right, that my strengths are in the longer stuff, and then even more so. Like, I think that I'm a much better 3K, 5K runner than I am a 1,800 meter runner. But the transition's been definitely interesting.
Yeah.
It's not very common.
Well, it's the, in our experience, it's the carryover. Like, you learned how to get super fast, and then that, all that leg turnover and everything transitions into the longer distances. That's really like my number one, marketing bullet point for why people should learn to run fast first before they start doing half and full marathons.
Yeah.
You take the time on the front end, and all that stuff carries over in transitions. It doesn't matter if you're running, like you're a triathlete or a runner or whatever. If you spend the time on the front end, it's going to carry to whatever distance you want to do. Even to the 100-mile. I mean, just being able to handle those levels of higher leg turnover and aerobically be able to keep pushing and pushing and pushing. It helps. It makes a huge difference. And not to dote on Greg anymore, but that's really why he's made such big improvements, is because he turned over the keys in the front end and said, okay, let's do whatever you think we need to do. And it was all speed. So it's getting faster.
Oh, that's awesome. Good job, Greg.
Yeah, Greg.
I don't know you, but great job.
So we always have to ask, when we get an athlete on the couch, as far as any of your best and your worst race memory.
Which is actually what Chris was wanting to hear too.
Oh, yeah?
One of the questions, Coach Chris. Yeah.
Hey,
what are your
Chris.
best and worst races and most memorable?
So I guess this is kind of weird, but I don't feel like I have it's not like a polar for me, polar opposites. It's not like the best and the worst, because I feel like for me, my best race memories are the races that I have had some kind of obstacle that I've had to overcome. So in one way, they've really sucked.
For sure.
But in the same vein, they've either taught me something or elevated my career even farther, or I learned something, or I figured out that I could handle that. So I guess probably, there's always those couple of races too that have just been like, oh my gosh, I felt so great. And those are great race memories. And that's kind of that's not really why you train, but you train so hard, so that, you can have one of those in the future, and they're very, very rare. But I would say that, so 2 races stick out to me. I would say the first one, I guess my worst race memory would be one that I didn't even finish. And so That would be when I was a sophomore in college. I was running in a 800 meter at Tyson Invitational, which is an indoor track race in Fayetteville, Arkansas at a University of Arkansas. It's a indoor tracks are 200 meters, well, standardized ones are 200 meters around. It's half the size of an outdoor track. So very tight turns. This track in particular is on hydraulics. It's banked. And for whatever reason, the race directors decided to put 16 athletes in the 800, which these tracks are typically 6 lanes.
Yeah.
And the 800 is a sprint. It's like elbows being thrown, like people get spiked. It's crazy. So they put way too many people in this race, and I got tripped the first 100 meters and was basically, I fell and then tried to stand up, and on my way from getting up off the ground, this athlete tried to jump over me and kneed me in the face. And so it's like, yeah,
like
they say track is
WWE
a non-contact sport. So basically, I blacked out. It knocked me unconscious, and I kind of woke up like a few seconds later, and first thought was like, I have to get off this track because I can't see anything and they're coming around again and I'm going to get trampled again. So I basically like crawled into the long jump pit, which is like full of sand, just like waiting for my trainer to come get me. And like our trainer at Baylor, Kevin Robinson, he is like one of my favorite people on the planet. Like it felt like it was like that. And all of a sudden he was just carrying me off the track. And so, ended up, I had like multiple fractures in my face. So this is like, it's an 8-hour bus ride from Baylor. So we like not realizing that it was broken yet. I drove all the way back 8 hours with like a piece of meat on my face and like ice and stuff,
Well, it's probably frozen chicken since it was the Tyson.
Yeah, exactly, like drumsticks, I know. But yeah, it ended up being this crazy like freak accident. I had to have facial reconstructive surgery.
Oh, wow.
Like,
jeez.
This is not the story I was expecting.
I know. I got you.
Yeah. Wow.
This is your worst memory, right?
This is like the worst race like thing. But basically like, so it was all these things. Like I still have 5 metal plates and 20 screws on my face. And then it was really bad because it broke my orbital socket. So your optic nerve is what controls your eyesight. And it had trapped my optic nerve. And if I didn't have surgery, there would have been a chance of going blind. Like I had to like get it taken care of. And it broke like my maxilla, which is this bone that's right underneath your nose, broke my nose, like shattered my cheekbone. So anyway, that's probably like the worst race experience I've ever had. But it definitely was like the one.
How was
the
the other
thing,
person's knee? Is my question.
So this was my friend Paige Rollins, and she ran for Arkansas.
Former friend.
No, we're cool. It's not her fault. It's not. She's not who tripped me. Anyway, it's not her fault either. But anyway, her meniscus was torn. Wow. So she was out the entire season. This was early February, which indoor nationals for a D1 track is usually like early March. So I basically like bus back to Baylor, had x-rays, knew it was broken. After that, we knew it was broken, but and then my dad is actually a breast cancer surgeon. So he works in Little Rock at Baptist in the surgical pavilion, which has a bunch of different surgeons and all different practices, I guess. But he had some friends, a plastic surgeon, ophthalmologist, who they flew me home and they operated on me. And so then it was like 2 weeks of, I couldn't have the operation for a couple of weeks after the surgery because with just such fine muscles, they needed the swelling to go down before they could really get in there and do the best job. And I'm sure that was a lot of pressure for them, like operating on their good friend's child.
For sure.
But yeah, so it was really insane because I couldn't, in order for the pressure or the swelling to go down, I couldn't run. I couldn't do anything that would really elevate my blood pressure at all. So it's basically like sitting on the couch for 2 weeks, like watching TV with one eye, like can't really do much, couldn't really read because that would give me headaches and all this stuff. But then I ended up coming back. So we had 2 weeks before NCAA indoor nationals, and I had already made nationals as part of a DMR team. It's a distance medley relay.
Okay.
And so that first week before nationals, my coach gave me basically sprint work almost every day just to like fire my muscles back into like commission. And then we ended up, I was the leadoff leg on the DMR, and I was so frightened because I had no idea how it was going to go. Like, it was actually on the track that had the accident happen. So it was like,
you had flashbacks.
Yeah, it was just like, oh my gosh.
This is how you went into sports psychology, right? This is how your career in sports psychology began?
Exactly. And so basically, I let off that leg. I went out like a bat out of hell and kind of died a little bit because my body still wasn't quite ready, but let off in pretty good position. I think I let off like 4th or something, and we ended up getting All-Americans. That was like the best that I could have asked for.
Nice.
Like, I didn't think we were going to win or anything, but it was just like, it was less about how we did and like how my actual, what the result was, and like just getting back on the horse and just like, this like scares the crap out of me, but I'm going to go do it. And so that's probably the worst and one of the best with the aftermath of it.
I think they're all coming together here.
And the worst.
Yeah.
Oh,
so,
wow. So you have a couch to nationals program, essentially, that you put into place.
Mostly just trying not to panic. Just an exercise and just like relaxation as much as I could.
I think that's like the perfect segue into why you got into sports psychology.
I mean, that was definitely interesting. Just even that part that I've already shared, but then it was really crazy because I started running later and later. Most people start running when they're like 15 or like even earlier than that, who get to this level, I guess, but or like even in college. But basically, I just lost my train of thought. Had all these things I was going to say, then I forgot. But yeah, basically, I had been invincible up to that point. So before you have your first big injury as an athlete and you're a young athlete, you kind of just think like, oh, like I kind of took naturally to the sport and I'm progressing so much and I'm making such big gains. And like I ran 220 in the 800 in high school, and then I ran 207 my freshman year. Like I'm going to run 152 by the time I'm a senior. And you just, you don't know any better if you haven't been around the sport your whole life. Like I didn't really know a lot about that. I just knew like I could run fast and like I loved it.
Hadn't really had the lows.
No. And so then even though this facial injury wasn't really a typical track injury, it wasn't like a stress fracture or tendonitis or something like that. It was like, oh, I'm not like as, invincible as I thought I was. And so even though like I did learn a lot about that, I kind of found myself running, like I would go to races, and because right after indoors, like college athletes don't get a break. You just go season to season to season. So running indoors ends early March. You may start outdoor track like late March or early April. So I found myself doing this thing where I would go out in a race and I would be running in like lane 3 or 4. And I think it was a defense mechanism.
Just avoiding
like
in the,
don't be near me. Like I don't care if I'm adding like 15 meters to my own race, but it was definitely a subconscious thing. Like I didn't even know I was doing it. And then there would be other races where one weekend, and this continued until like my junior year. So this was like a year and a half of this where I would go run a race and I would run like amazing at PR or whatever. And then like the next week I would go race and I would run like 10 seconds slower. So it was just this like yo-yo thing. And I think it was just this kind of weird, like, just it just a blow to my confidence, even though I was still steadily progressing, but I just wasn't racing with the conviction or the confidence that I had. And I had actually, I'd asked my coach and my trainer if there was somebody that I could talk to about things like this, or and most college programs don't have a sports psychologist on staff. So you kind of have to like refer out to different people. So I did see a couple people, and I remember one person in particular was just I think he did work with athletes, but he wasn't really trained in like athlete specific strategies, or just like didn't really know like the ins and outs of just the struggle that you go through day in and day out, and trying to balance everything and have a life and have, not just be an athlete, because you can't do that. It's like it's impossible basically, without suffering in other areas of your life. And this guy was like, try to do this, hypnotism thing, or like I'd be closing my eyes and he'd be, I don't know, like, and I think maybe that works for some people. Some people are susceptible to it. I was like, okay,
Too
like
suspicious
it
of the whole
really,
thing.
yeah, it wasn't really what I was looking for. So that kind of just got me interested into thinking about that as a future career option. But I actually didn't start, I graduated from Baylor in 2009. And then I signed a contract with ASICS and ran for them for a couple years. And then I moved to Knoxville, Tennessee to join a training group there. But it wasn't until like the year after that I actually went to graduate school. But I decided to go for sports psychology because there was just so much that I just like wanted to know more about, and kind of just, try to help people with. And
For sure.
I do practice, I don't really call it practicing, but I do consult with athletes over mental performance issues, but I also use it a lot in my coaching. So it definitely has helped a lot, but that's kind of why I got into sports psychology. I use it on myself sometimes too, some of the things I've learned, but I actually had been seeing my own sports psychologist for the past couple of years.
Gotcha.
So if you were to go back and what you know now with sports psychology, how would you essentially analyze what was going on with you after your injury, making the comeback, kind of having the yo-yo performance? Was there any one thing? Was it just a multitude of things, or?
I honestly think, and I honestly think it's just like I was just a young athlete and didn't really know any better, and just kind of, I didn't have, my confidence was very shaky. Like
Gotcha.
I just didn't. And so basically, I just like, I'm somebody like I like to kind of know like how things work, and I feel more comfortable when I can kind of explain something. And so I just didn't really know what was going on at the time. But like looking back, I think it was just, I just, couldn't believe that this had happened to me. And it was kind of like I just
threw you off your game, the track where everything was going well, and then?
Yeah, I just had an expectation, I think, that I was going to be this and this, and I was supposed to do this and this and this on this timeline. And when that didn't happen, which is like, that hardly ever happens. Like everybody has this idea of how good they're going to do in college or pros or whatever. And it like never really happens the way you think it did. And I just didn't know, I didn't have the coping skills and the coping strategies to deal with not meeting my own expectations, which were definitely unrealistic. I mean, absolutely. And I just didn't really know any better. And it wasn't like my dad was a professional pole vaulter. My mom wasn't really like, she was a cheerleader and stuff in high school, but she wasn't really like, she's really fast actually, but she didn't really do like a lot of sports. And so I think it was just kind of like, I just didn't really like know like how to process everything. And my parents are great. They've never been like ones to push me into stuff. They've just been like, try a bunch of stuff, see what you like, we'll support you.
Yeah.
As long as you're not, making really stupid decisions, but yeah.
So, I mean, I think that carries over into the amateur world just as much. I mean, you get an athlete who, at first, I kind of call them like default gains, where they haven't even been training that with much structure. And as soon as you put them on structure, it's like improvement.
Oh, yeah.
And then all of a sudden they get to kind of that pointy end of things, and you start to have like a bunch of days that are like, no, those are okay. And then you get the like crappy days, and then you just get a few really good days here and there, and you have to that's where for us, like that's the kind of the thing that we have to work on the most mentally with people, is just we have expectations, they have expectations. If they're off, we have to kind of align them a little bit, and then we have to explain over and over that, okay, today went pretty good, we hit the marks, and then yesterday sucked, and soon we're going to get a really good day. But we just don't get a lot of them. Like that's how
every session's not a breakthrough anymore.
Right.
Now it's you got to be much more diligent and
it's like especially
patience,
for,
I guess,
for successful people, like people that are like successful in business or in their in their field. Like they think it's great, but they have such confidence in themselves in being able to like take on any challenge, that they set these massive expectations for themselves athletically, and then when they don't get there in 3 months, they're like devastated. So yeah, I mean, I think that's like mentally, the big point there is just getting the expectations right on the front end. And as far as a coach, like if you have a coach, your coach should be guiding you and telling you, okay, you're running a 9-minute pace for a marathon. Qualifying for Boston is going to take a while. Like this could be a several year process. That kind of thing. Because we have had people that come right on and say, "This is where I'm at. This is my goal," and you're trying not to offend them,
right? Yeah.
But you have to gingerly explain to them that's going to take a while. And if you're in for the work, we can give it our best shot, but you're here and this is up here. We have to it's going to be slow going.
You can't skip steps on the ladder to get there.
Sure.
You can't go from bottom step to top step. There's a process.
No, that's when I really try to also preach just process goals to people too, and try to get them to buy into just falling in love with the journey of it too, as cliche as that is, rather than just like the result, because when I meet with new prospective clients, I have them fill out this athlete questionnaire, and it has a bunch of different things on it. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely a part about, what are your goals, what races you have coming up, and that's something that I try to, if I it's hard to say, I don't want to be like, you will not do that, because I don't want to, you don't want to be negative, right? But it's also that's something that it's good to breach the very first meeting right up front. And even with something like the marathon or ultras or whatever, those races are so long that it's I've known people, some of my friends who run marathons too, that they've done everything right. They've had perfect training, and then on the day it just didn't happen, and you're it's just about with coaching athletes, going through that process with them and then trying to be their sounding board. It's really hard, coaching, which I'm saying not to you guys, but to the, podcast, coaching is so much more than just writing programs. And there's so much more that goes into it.
Absolutely.
For sure. Yep. 100%.
So I know, you kind of talked a little bit about goal setting there for a second. I know when you and Coach Chris were working with Houston High School, when you won the state championship with the ladies there.
Yeah. Hey, girls.
That you did a lot of work with them on goal setting and expectations. And I when Chris kind of talked about it, I guarantee you there was no other program in the state who was doing that in depth of work just on goal setting and keeping the expectations. I
mean, I have no idea, maybe not, but yeah, we had 75 people, girls and guys combined. And yeah, I met with every single one of them at Panera for like 30 to 45 minutes. And, you know, they knew like I had kind of similar, like, this is what we're going to be talking about. This is a good time to tell me anything you want to talk about, and so we can address it through the season. And I think it definitely helped. And then we had kind of like little follow-ups at the end of practice. I met with each of them at Panera like at the beginning of the season, basically in the summer. But then, yeah, like had follow-ups. Like I just picked a couple like after practices to just assess, and then they ended up doing really well. But, you know, I mean, I think Chris and I are good coaches, but I have to say those girls were like another level. I was just like, let's just not screw them up. Just don't hurt them. Yeah, and it was like, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good run. So, like, just kind of trying to touch on some of like the mental game side of things. Like, what are just a few like of your personal kind of day of race day, you know, how to get yourself in the right frame of mind to put out a good performance?
I would say in general, I love racing, so it's actually like play to me. I do get nerves sometimes too, just because like, I mean, yeah, there are those expectations, like your own expectations, but then if you have a sponsor, if you have an agent, if you have other meet directors who are looking to see how you do to get into other races or whatever, you know, like that's definitely, but I just also think about like on race day, I try to actively practice gratitude. And I keep a gratitude journal where every night before I go to bed, I write in like just something about the day that I really appreciated. And it can be something as whatever, like, oh, the grass was so pretty green today. Or like, like yesterday I had a track workout at Rhodes, and like the men's track team was like yelling for me. And that was so awesome for me. And that's what I wrote last night, because I train by myself, and which gets kind of like, it can be a little boring and grueling. So it was like, I had people like helping with me. And so like, I kind of tend to try to really dial into that on race day and just think about how fortunate I am that, you know, and yes, I work very hard and I am talented and all that, but also just like how like, just, it's so exciting. Like I get to travel all over the world and race.
Sure.
And it's like this race result, like, yes, it will mean something in my career, but like I get to do what I love to do. And this is something that hardly, like, not many people get to do this. And I also just, you know, that's like the emotional part of it for me. I don't really race that well if I'm like upset or any, like I'm more of like like I do better when I have positive emotions. But there's also other things, like I have a certain routine that I try to stick to just because it helps with some nerves and it's familiarity. And I kind of, you know, I've been doing this. I mean, I'm 32 years old. I've been doing this since I was like, I've been pro since I was 22. So I've been doing this for a while. I kind of know like what kind of works for me, but I don't really have like, you know, it's fluid. I'm not like, I have to do this 8 hours before. I have to do this. It's kind of just like.
Because that can mess with you too. Because what happens if something isn't in line, or there is a twist, or
what happens
a delayed start, or.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Like, yeah, and you can't control things like the weather.
Exactly.
I can't control that.
Oh,
yeah.
I can't control what other people do in the race. All I can control is how I respond to things. And so another thing I kind of do, I don't like to think about the race at all. Like I don't like to talk about it. I don't, and like on the day.
This is race day or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Day of the race, usually my races, if I'm running on the track, they are typically in the afternoon or at night. So like I'll have races. Usually they're like 3 p.m. or the night races are like 9 or 10 p.m. So like that's a long day to sit there
That's like
and
3
be
naps.
like, yeah, no, I dedefinitely take a nap on race day. Like I have to because like I also get like excited because I'm about to go like perform.
Yeah.
But I found that like if I just try to like not really think about it and just try to like relax my body and get, you know, just feel calm and just like happy that I'm there and happy that I'm in a position to like really get the best out of myself on that day. That helps me a lot. And I also do, I do have like different strategies in my head that I'm thinking of like on race day, but I try not to really, like when I start my warm up, which is like typically it's 20 minutes of very easy jogging, about, depending on the weather, like 45 minutes to an hour before my race. That's kind of when I more start to think about like, or go back. I've already thought about my strategies like the week and the couple weeks before, depending on the race situation, because it's never the same. But that's kind of more when I like dial into that and then do more of like the pump up stuff,
So it's not a full day pump up. It's let's stay calm.
I would be so out of it if I did that. Like, oh my
gosh. Take another nap right before the start of the race.
Yeah.
You keep that excitement level up here, all day long, and by the time you get to the race, you're worthless. Yeah.
We've got a few questions on Facebook. We can either dive into some of those now, or we can save them to the end. One of them is, this is a good one. This is from Rebecca Winter.
Hi.
How do you handle having a coach who's your husband?
Oh yeah, that's the best question.
Asking for a friend. Just kidding.
Awesome. Yeah, that is something that it's okay. I think it's hard, but I also think it's very rewarding and gratifying at the same time. And I think that honestly, like it's actually a really hard setup. And I think Max and I, the first year, he's coached me now for, it's been 4 years. And I think the first, 4 or 5 years. The first year he inherited kind of this really like upset, injured athlete who was like just pissed at everything because I couldn't do what I love to do, basically. And so
it initially started as he wanted you to be happy.
There you go.
To ease things up on the home front a little bit.
I mean, yeah, like that's a whole other story about like I had like 2 other coaches and like, but things ended up how they were supposed to end up. But yeah, basically, the first year was definitely the hardest because it was like you go your whole life when you're single being your own person, and then you meet the person you're going to marry, and then you kind of have to compromise and kind of like learn who they are and how you work together and everything. And then when you add in, you have your coach as your husband or you're coaching your wife or whatever, it's like this is a whole other aspect of this person and yourself that you're going to have to combine sometimes. And so it's really hard. Some people say like, you have to separate the two. So you have to separate like, okay, now I have my coaching hat on. Now I have my husband hat on. But I think that's almost impossible to do. But I do think that there is a time and a place for talking about training and then just being together as 2 people enjoying each other. And that's been probably like one of the hardest things because with runners, and I'm sure like most elite athletes, it's like, so much of what your day is tied into like it's my lifestyle. Yep. Like, and so it's like naturally, like I'm sitting there and like my mind will start wondering too, like my workout tomorrow and what paces am I supposed to hit and what pace is that? And, stuff like that. So it's like really difficult. But yeah. And then I think it's also really gratifying because it's like when you do have a really good result or a breakthrough performance or whatever, it's like, you can share that with your husband. And it's like, you did good too. Like, good job, honey, because it's like, you helped me put myself in this position to where I was able to like get something that I really wanted, and get something out of myself. And he really wants that for me too. And so that's really, really gratifying. But then it's when you have the bad races. That's I think where people get in trouble because like, I don't think it's ever been like Max doesn't, if I have a race that I'm just not super happy with, which there hasn't been that many lately, but like, when I've been like super, like really healthy, but, he's not ever like, why did you, he's like, what did I do? How can I make you better? How could I have avoided this? And I'm like, I didn't do this in the race, So it's like, you can't like point fingers at the other person because it just like, that's just like a stinker for like, and there's your coach relationship, but it's like your marriage is ultimately,
Now, does he like, Does he sneak stuff in like yard work? Like today's strength training is going to be lawn mowing. No,
You don't
'Cause
want
that
me.
could-
You don't
that
want me
could
on a
cause a problem.
lawnmower.
that could
I think
cause.
Bryant and I both swore off trying to coach our wives about 2 years in. So
I mean, it's hard. I mean, I
Kudos.
think too.
But I
for
think you're
me-
actually hitting your workouts.
Yeah, I
This would
mean,
be, I didn't work out today. What should I do tomorrow?
Bryant, stop talking.
Yep.
the
Don't throw
thing
your wife under
too-
the bus on.
you
ahead.
you have to own. Like, I have to own my own performances. I can't. Like, I'm not going to improve or get better if I'm like, well, my husband, my coach, like, did this, and I didn't think I should have done. Like, I have to be like, I had to take ownership of what I do, and that's like practices, races, like, I'm the one, it's my body, like, I'm the one doing it, it's my mind, like, I'm the one, doing this, so you can't, like, it's really hard, but you can't, like, yeah.
No, for sure.
So
To answer your question,
That-
Becca.
no, that was good.
It is hard.
Like, one thing, like, personally, like probably the last 3 books, I've kind of gotten into this like mental game obsession, just reading on it and stuff like that. And I think a big question for a lot of people was, okay, how do I improve my mental toughness? Like pushing beyond when your brain's sitting there screaming at you, telling you stop it. What do you have any like strategies, methods, suggestions as far as like just improving your mental toughness on the whole, rather than just going out and doing a bunch of hard workouts and seeing how good you do?
Yeah, I mean, that's the limiter. I mean, everyone has their physical attributes and everything, but it's like, that's where you're going to really get that's the good stuff. It's like, if you can push past that. And I think that is an ongoing work in progress for everybody. And I don't think it's like, it doesn't work on a linear, it's not like, it's not like you just steadily get better and better. I think it's like a peaks and valleys kind of thing. I think one of the biggest things too is like, if you're, everyone's going to have workouts that just are, you feel terrible. And I think the biggest thing is probably just not quitting and just finishing workouts for one thing, even if you aren't hitting your times, just doing it, just putting yourself through that, through the grueling effort. And, because it's like, if you quit things in practice, you're more likely to like wimp out in a race. Like maybe you don't drop out of your race, but you'll mentally give up later on. But then, I mean,
It's the loaded question, because some people say, you can't. Some people are like, some coaches out there will literally say, you can't improve mental toughness. It's like, it's either in you or it's not.
I
like
don't
this,
agree with
the
that.
suffering. And then the other ones will be like, yeah, it's like a skill. You have to work on it.
That's
just
what I
like
think.
everything else.
I mean, I'm more in that camp. Of it's a skill. I don't think you have it or you don't really. I think I'm definitely way more mentally tough than I was like even like 4 or 5 years ago. Like absolutely. And I have a couple strategies for when I like am in races and workouts when things get really, really hard. But one thing that actually really helped me was like really learning about like your body's mechanisms for like handling pain and processing that. And I think, your body is designed, it's a well-oiled machine and it's designed to keep you alive. And basically when you're in hard workouts and you're halfway through or whenever, and you start feeling really, really tired, that's kind of, your brain and your body, you're kind of working together. Your brain's kind of, your body's saying like, oh, I have like, my muscles are getting tight and I've got lactic acid building up or whatever. And, and your brain is kind of sending signals to your body saying like, you're kind of getting to where, you're working really hard, but you could push yourself harder than you think every single time because your brain is not going to let these are just warning signals that your brain is processing to say that you're not at homeostasis.
Yeah, I recognize that it's challenging.
There's some discomfort here.
Yeah, but it's you can always push past that, but it's that's continuously a work in progress. And I think that's that helps me to learn about all of that and kind of know what's actually happening rather than, oh, I'm really hurting, I have to quit.
I'm not going to die. I know I'm not going to die.
It really
because
doesn't feel great, but it's not even really pain. It's more intense discomfort. I mean, if you have if your leg is falling off and you have an actual injury, I'm not saying push through everything because you're not going to die. If you're whatever, if your leg's splintered, probably don't finish the workout.
Fatigue but is different than injury.
Right. It's a little different. But I also think about too how when I feel I don't think that there are tons of people in the world or in the US that are that much more talented than me or that much more gifted than me. And I think that when I'm really, really hurting in a race or a workout, that means other people are really, really hurting too. And if I can just kind of make them hurt before they wanted to or expected to, I'm gonna get them.
You'll have the advantage, yeah. The
right.
upper hand.
Even though I'm hurting really, really bad too. But it's and I'm not a big sit and kicker person. I'm more of a lead till you bleed person. I will
I like that.
try to string you out a little bit, And I mean, I've won a lot of races that way and it's really hard, but it's I just...
That's the Prefontaine,
that's how I am.
right? Wasn't that how Prefontaine was?
Oh my gosh.
Go out hard and,
he's crazy.
See who can stay?
Yeah.
He's crazy.
Make others suffer? Yeah. Make them doubt, make them give up first?
Well, yeah, because it's and really you talk to a lot of elite endurance athletes and it's not even about what so-and-so is doing. It's this is it's always a personal battle. It's what can I handle, And so that's kind of what I think about too when it comes to pain management is I can manage this. And every time this happens, if you have a workout, yesterday I had 10 by 600 on the track, which is 10 times a lap and a half around an outdoor track. And it started getting really, really hard. I had about 90 seconds recovery in between the intervals. It's once I get done with the interval, I have that 90 seconds, but a minute into it, I'm all right, I can go again. And it's I bet you most people, if you've ever quit a workout, it's 90 seconds later, you're I feel fine. I could have pushed through it, And it's definitely and it's not to say you're a worse athlete or whatever. It's just sometimes it's just about getting, it's practicing that. You have to practice that.
Yeah, I always put myself, how am I going to feel 90 seconds after my race or 90 seconds after this effort? Or I know I can give up now and the pain's going to go away, but I also know 90 seconds after, say more recently, our threshold tests that we do for cycling. I know at minute 21:30, I'm going to be talking again, I'm going to be fine, and either I'm proud and happy of how far I pushed myself and how I did, or I let myself, give in to the thoughts in my head saying, yeah, this is really not comfortable. This is pretty miserable. Knowing that 90 seconds later, I'm going to go, man, I had more in me and I totally could have gotten that little bit extra.
I don't want to be sitting on the couch that night going, oh, I'm so mad at myself. Or not on a plane to a race that I wanted to be at because I let something that was in my control get the best of me, and
at your level, I mean, a percentage point is big time.
It's really actually I try not to think about it too much because it's really it makes me want to throw up, but it's the US is so good right now that it's no one knows what's going to happen because there's so many of us that are really good.
It's packed at the top right now.
It literally could be 200ths of a second. And it's and that could be there's something you did really wrong or whatever, but it's so it's just hard. Yeah. But also there's this strategy, there's this technique about the next day's newspaper about how I do it, like how, will I handle myself in this race or whatever. Like, what do I want the newspaper to say? Like, what do I want the sports page to say? That's like also something kind of fun to think about. Like, I don't know. But,
I like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've not heard that before, but I like that one.
Yeah.
So we use a lot of
same
a lot of it. A lot of the strategy, like Brian was saying, our threshold test. You can even, for a lot of people who haven't put themselves in a scenario to hurt, you're going to be terrible at it at first. Mm-hmm. And then the more you put yourself into that scenario, those hard workouts or those all-out efforts or even just races where you're really pushing yourself, you get a little bit better. And even if you like took a threshold test, if you're new at it, took a threshold test the next day after your first one, you would do better.
Yeah.
Because mentally you know how to pace it, you know how to, you know what it's going to feel like. You know that there's an end.
You know you'll live.
Yeah, so it is. I do think the more you put yourself into those scenarios, the better you get at it.
Absolutely.
If nothing more than just effort regulation, and I tell a lot of people, you start like bank the positive thoughts, like whatever it is, whether it's your kids or your like bank those positive thoughts for when the dark ones start to come in. And then, a ton of studies have shown that, just even thinking about something like positive in that moment, like fires your brain back up.
Well, and I choose to do this. I don't have to do this. Exactly. Like, I choose to like push myself this hard.
Suffering by choice. Yeah.
Well, what is that cliche quote that people say? It's like suffering is pain is inevitable. No, wait.
Pain is temporary?
It's like
keep going.
Pain is
Get
temporary.
Get going.
I've got one.
Pain is that's what I mean. I need to find my phone to show you this quote. But yeah, it's like suffering is like pain is like inevitable, like suffering is optional. Like it's gonna hurt, but like you don't have to
mentally you don't have to suffer.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people...
That took way too long.
Oh.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
Sorry.
That wouldn't be the first time we went like this. But like, I think a lot of people just, they have these aspirations of getting better, getting fitter, having better performances, and they'll do the work up until the point where it gets hard. And the suffering starts to come in, and then they're, sometimes they're the first ones who are like, well, how do I get more mentally tough where these workouts are not, so grueling for me? I'm like, we just got to do them.
Yeah.
You just have to do them.
Sometimes you just have to hurt.
I mean, the other big strategy that we use a lot, especially in cycling, because we teach pedal stroke mechanics so heavily, is just to run through like all of the different phases of the pedal stroke and focus on one movement in what you're doing. And then once you kind of rifle through all of those movements, a lot of times you realize that your perceived exertion drops because you've maybe given like certain muscle groups a break for a split second. Mm-hmm. And that seems to really help, at least for cyclists, it really helps sustain effort for a longer period of time.
That's the same with running too. It's kind of counterintuitive, but it's like to run fast for a very long time, you have to be relaxed and loose, and you can't be like tense. But it's like so opposite of what people like. You think like I have to, you have to like muscle through it and like. But it's like no, it's like you keep your face relaxed, like you keep your arms on here. You don't like. I tend to do this, and it's like.
The tight hands?
Yes, I tend to like get claw hands, and it's like no, and that definitely helps too. Like on hard reps, like yesterday even, like, and this is I had to take a small break at the beginning of March because I aggravated a disc in my back while lifting, and it's fine now. But yeah, so I had like my second track workout back yesterday, and I had to like go through those cues again, and it's like a constant like it's not like it's always. Like just keeping reminders in the forefront of your mind when things get hard, like how to
have that list.
How to do that.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah.
And it's easy
rolling
to
through
forget.
That mental checklist
Yeah.
when things get hard really, 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 really helps. All right, so we're taking up a lot of your time, but we're going to throw in some rapid fire questions here.
Okay.
All right, favorite race?
Like
Ever?
race venue or like
Favorite race to do? Venue? Place, time?
I really like I like the US 5K Road Champs in New York. It's really fun. It's in November. It's it's the day 2 days before the New York Marathon, so it's just a lot of excitement.
Yeah.
The buzz is there.
Yeah, like track is where my heart is, but I love the road as well. But yeah, I just love that. I love that race. And as far as track goes, I think my favorite place I've raced was in London at the Queen Elizabeth Olympic Park. It's like you have to go through security to get it. It's it's called it's kind of like the Bird's Nest in Shanghai, but it's basically just like this really cool, like you have to Google images of it. But it's like the biggest crowd I've ever raced in front of. It was a Diamond League event in London this past July, and it was just so fun. Yeah, I mean, I like a lot of races.
I was gonna
But that one's good.
I was going to
That's
ask
good.
what you preferred, whether it be track or road.
I like track better.
Okay.
That's just
There was one question on Facebook. Do you do much cross country anymore? And do you enjoy running off of the track? Do any off road stuff?
I really don't do a ton of cross country. I'm like a baby deer when it comes to grass. Like I run on my toes, and so sometimes like I feel like I should do some more like workouts on grass because it would help strengthen my weak points in my body, like my ankles and feet. But I always end up like rolling my ankles, and so like I get a little nervous. But I have run in the brooks, like the Twilight Invite in August here in Memphis. That's fun, and like I think it definitely is great for building mental, building mental toughness too, because that's really really hard. It's grueling, but I don't really do a lot of grass stuff.
Yep.
I was going to do the Elliptigo World Champs, which is like
They have
that in San Diego.
Okay.
But I was going to do it last year, but it didn't work out with my schedule. So like I like doing fun stuff like that, but it just has to like
Add to
be
the
the
training
overall
and not take
plan.
away from it.
Yeah, like it, and there's like a time and place for some stuff. But yes, I do road races. I'll do 5K, 10K on the road. I was going to run a half marathon in January, but I had some Achilles issues, so I decided not to. But I mostly do track now.
All right. Favorite piece of gear?
Favorite piece of gear?
Yeah, anything.
I don't know. What is your favorite piece of gear?
Well, my favorite piece of
Give me
gear
some
broke
ideas
on
what
me.
you're talking about. Oh, like you're okay. I mean, I love track spikes. Like I just like the feel of that.
Certain brand.
I've had a pair of old Nike Milers that I've worn for years. Right now I'm currently unsponsored, so I can talk about whatever now. But so basically
Not for long. You're
Nike.
on this couch.
Nike.
yeah, I hope so. I just got national funding, so that's great. But I don't have like a shoe sponsor right now. But I do have an old pair of Nike Milers. They're really old. They're actually like there's leather on them.
Ooh.
They're really I love them. They're just like nostalgic for me. But I do race in Brooks spikes. And as far as gear goes, like I mean, I guess for rehab and maintenance, I use just lacrosse balls and just work out spots on my on my legs, and usually my injury spots when things pop up are all lower legs. So it'll be like peroneal tendonitis or Achilles or whatever. So I just have like a whole routine that I go through with lacrosse balls and Epsom salt. That's another piece of that. I would say that's gear. That's
there we
gear.
go.
It's on the list. It's on the list.
Yeah.
All right. Favorite post-race meal?
Chipotle.
Chipotle for the win.
Massive burrito.
Not much hesitation there either.
Chipotle, anything that's like Indian or falafel, like something like ethnic or real hearty or whatever. Yeah, I mean, I love food. But that's what comes to my mind.
Which I'm guessing none of those are pre-race meals.
No.
Yeah.
Like, I actually have a really strong stomach. I can eat, like, whatever the night before. But, like, I stick to, like, in the morning, like, oatmeal or whatever, toast, and just, like, an avocado chicken sandwich before I race. Coffee.
Favorite workout?
I like 400 meter repeats, but I also, what I've actually like really learned to love is gear change workouts.
Oh yeah.
So we did this yesterday where I had this 10 by 600 meters, and the odd number intervals, like 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9, were just even paced, like try to run this pace. And then the even pace intervals, 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10, I was supposed to cruise through 400 of it and then hammer the last 200. And so for me, like, I think I get more like with a lot of championship style events, it'll be like kind of a hobby jog or like a cruise until the last, like, whatever, like 3, 4, 5, 600 meters. And then it's like, then just go all out and see. And so that helps me with that. And I tend to do better with actual long intervals. Like, we've even done some that are like 1,000 meter repeats where you'll run like 800 meters. Well, either like cruising or just like, or really at race pace or under, and then just hammering the last 200 where you just try to run like 800 meter pace.
Yeah.
And that just helps me a lot. That's a confidence booster workout too.
Yeah.
So
super
that's
specific.
Yeah. So like, that's what I like, but I also, this is so weird that I can say this now, but I love long runs now. I used to really be scared of them because I was a half miler.
Yeah.
But I love long runs, and I had my longest long run this January.
The dog's over here like itching herself all over
camera.
the floor.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
Going crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so long runs, I love that. And it's also like the one run, like I meet with a big group of runners on Sunday mornings, and it's just like social, but like we'll go up, we'll get after it though.
Yeah.
It's not like an easy run. It's like we'll get fast at the end.
Good.
Yeah.
All right. So how do, like, if somebody wants to get in contact with you, before we go let you do that, I have to tell a short story about your Instagram. When I first like when
I'm not sure where
The
this
handle?
is going.
just yes.
Okay.
Yeah. When
Okay, I
when
should
Chris
explain that
started
too.
talking to us about you, like way back when you guys were working with Houston, I found you on Instagram, and I like read the thing, and I was like, gosh, she really likes herself a lot.
No, I know. I'm so
then-
worried that people think that.
And then
That's
I like
so funny.
kept reading it, and it was probably like 3 days later, and I was like, wait a minute. Hot Pocket.
Hot Pocket.
It's like,
Thank
she has a sense of
you.
humor.
Thank you. Okay, and I am so nervous
I
about
got that right
because
away.
thank you. I get worried because literally
What are you
So
going
here
to
it is.
pick?
last
Hot
summer
Pockets.
I was in somewhere. I think it was in Ireland, and we all race and whatever, and then they like at some of these meets they'll have like just catered dinners for us and whatever. So we're all like sitting around, and I was like, who gets my Instagram handle? And people were like, like it was like half and half. It was like some people were like, oh yeah, I get it. It's like whatever. And then some people were like, I don't know what to think about you. But yeah, it's funny. Like on my like Instagram stories, like I'll put some stuff on there. Like I was at the grocery store the other day in the frozen food section, and I took a picture of the hot pockets, and it was like self-portrait.
That needs to be the main picture.
Which is probably like one of the worst things you can eat, and like they're actually like really not. I don't think they're that good. But anyway, I just thought it was funny.
Well, I think
so
you blew
did
your
it.
Hot Pockets sponsorship right there.
Oh, yeah, Hot Pockets is
I
done.
mean, but yeah.
So if somebody wants to get in touch with you as far as getting some coaching or
Sales
some,
got the Insta link up there,
put it up there.
so everyone knows.
Yeah, it would be so. Instagram, I have a link on there that you can message me, and it sends it to my work email, which is my I have like my personal email, which is like shopping or whatever, and then I have my other one, which is like
Max, did you hear that? Did you hear that, Max?
or like coaching and like everything that has to do with running, like meet directors and whatever. So yeah, like that, the Instagram link sends it to my business email. And then I do have a website. It's elitesp.org, and there's also an option to email me on that. And yeah, if you want to talk shop or just talk about running, cool. You know.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Lauren, we appreciate your time.
Yeah,
thanks for
thanks
coming
so
on.
much.
Thanks for having me.
Great content here. Guys, thanks for watching, hanging out, and we'll catch you guys next time.
Peace.
Adios.
Bye.